Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I'm Ron Valencia, and we're going to do a lesson today on seventh chords. So, first of all, we're going to need the music Make Me a Channel of Your Peace. It's in the drive. Uh, it's in the Google Drive that I shared with everyone. So, if you want to call that up, or it's 828 in the Blue Book. Um, that's the only version of it I have right this second, so I don't know if it's in the Red Book or what have you. If you want to comment below and put that in there, that'd be great. In that particular song, I like it because it uses both a major seventh and a dominant seventh. So let's first of all back up a little bit, talk about building a triad and then adding a seventh. So we're going to start on middle C, okay? And now we're going to build a triad on that middle C. We're going to be in the key of C. So there's going to be no sharps, no flats, no black notes. It's all going to be white notes for right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to build a triad. We're going to build a major triad. Now, how did I build that? Very simply, we talked about half steps and whole steps. We are now jumping into two whole steps to get us to this note, to give us the third. To give us the fifth, we have to jump a step and a half. So here's one whole step, and then here's a half step. Remember, the neighboring tone, no matter if it's a white or a black key, is a half step, the one that is closest to it. If you skip one, it is a whole step. Okay, it'd be two halves. So here we have a major triad. Remember, it's a major third, and a major third is basically just a note and two whole steps, right? That's all a major third is. A minor third is a step and a half. So from E to this G, that's a step and a half. That's also known as a minor third, okay? So if we stack these up, we come away with our C major triad or chord, and that's how we find it. This is our first of the chord, this is our third, and this is our fifth. Okay, so we have our first, third, and fifth. And now we want to figure out, well, how are we going to add the seventh? Well, it's pretty much mathematical at this point. If you've got the first, the third, the fifth, that means the neighboring note would be the sixth, right? We're not interested in that right now. And then this would be the seventh. Okay, so in the key of C, a C chord with a 7, a C7 is spelled just like that. I'm going to show that up on the screen here. So you have a C major 7. Okay, we're going to talk about why it's major in a couple seconds, but I wanted you to understand that it is a C, E, G, B in root position, and that this B is a seventh away from the root. So if we had the root, this is our first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. So that means it's some type of seventh, okay? We're going to call it a major seventh. The reason why it's called a major seventh, or not the reason why, but why we're calling it a major seventh, for us for now, is that it is almost an octave away, but it's a half step lower than an octave. So an octave, remember, is 8. So an octave would have been from C to C. If you come down a half step, that would be our seventh. We're going to call that a major seventh. So how to build a major seventh chord off of any note would be as follows. If you have the root, major third, minor third, and a major third. Thus, a major seventh, okay? This will apply if we start on any note. So let's see how that applies on a G chord. Okay, it doesn't matter what key we're in. We're going to build a major seventh chord on a G, and I'm going to get rid of that chord up there so you don't get confused by it. So we have a G, we have the major third, we have a step and a half, so that's a minor third, and now we need two whole steps. 1, 2, another major third. Aha, now we have a black note in there, and that is a F sharp. This is a G major seventh. It's a beautiful chord. Okay, a lot of cool things about it. You can do a lot of neat jazzy things, especially if you start getting into inversions. We'll get into that in a minute. But for now, to build a G chord, so let's build another one just so we get a good handle on this. So let's build a major seventh off of a D. Okay, a D. We need a major third, which is 2 whole steps, 1, 2. We need a minor third, which is a step and a half. And then we need a major third, which is 2 whole steps, 1, 2. Beautiful chord, very jazzy. So here's what it sounds like up an octave. All right, so that is a D major 7, okay? So remember, the major 7 has a major third on top of the 5th. That is almost always true. For us for now, it is very true, okay? So you can stick with that rule for a long time and it'll be fine, okay? All right, so that is a major 7th. Now, we're gonna get into what's called a dominant 7th. It also can be applied to a minor 7th, but let's take it a step at a time, a dominant 7th. So I'm gonna show the dominant 7 up on the screen here. Now, if you notice in the C dominant 7, it's just written capital C with a 7, okay? There's no, for the major, if you remember, the major 7 had the major, and sometimes they abbreviate that in MAJ 7. Sometimes it's a capital M 7. There's depending on where you see it. In the music that I see from Gather, typically you just see them put in MAJ for major 7. So they don't actually put in the OR here. So okay, so now that we've made that distinction, I'm going to go back to the dominant 7. Let's see if I can do this correctly. There it is. Okay, dominant 7. All right, so you can obviously see the spelling up on the screen, but I'm going to help you out with it just so we take it a step at a time. So we've got our root, we've got our third, our major third, I might add. Then we have a minor third from that particular note. So we have our first, third, our 5th. Okay, major chord. And now we need a minor third on top of the 5th. So that's only a step and a half. 1 and a half. Boom. That is a dominant 7th chord. Okay? There's lots of uses for this. The dominant 7 chord has a function of leading you into a 1 chord or into a specific chord. We don't have to worry about that. But it leads you to a specific chord. So I like this in particular inversion in this part of the piano. Okay, so it kind of led me to that G chord, but you don't need to know specifics about that, but it does have a function. So there are reasons for these chords. They all have kind of a sonic function and a theoretical function for that matter. Anyway, so dominant 7, to easily to spell it, let's spell it in G, major third, minor third, and now in G, it's here, a minor third above the 5th, and that's our G dominant 7. It is a G, B, D, and F, natural. Okay, I'm trying to get the fingers out of the way so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so that's it in G. Now let's do one in D, just like we did before. D, we have a major third, we have our 5th, and then we need a minor third on top of that. There you go. Bingo. That's simple. There is a dominant 7. This is a D dominant 7 chord, or D7. Okay? Most of the time people will call, if you just say a 7 chord, most of the time they mean dominant. Most of the time. I don't know if that'll help you or not. But anyway, I'll throw that out there. So it's especially if it's within the key signature, that's going to be really, really important. Okay. So the difference between the major and the minor, let's go back to the C here. That's up on the screen. The major 7, I'm going to transition back to that, spelled like this. And the dominant 7, like this, So really, it's the difference between moving this 7 here down, and that's the dominant 7. That's a major 7, that's a dominant 7. It's really a half step. Another way to look at it is a dominant 7th is a step away from the octave. Okay? Boom. A major 7th is a half step away from the octave. Boom. Okay? All right, sound effects included today, apparently. So anyway, I hope that clears up a lot of your questions about 7th chords, okay? About 7ths. Now there's something called a minor 7th, okay? This is kind of interesting because this might confuse a few people. So we're going to take our time with it, and I'm going to show it to you. Minor 7th, basically the minor 7th, the minor part of it is really the 3rd, okay? Not the 7th necessarily, okay? I'll explain. The minor 7th is built off of a minor triad, as you can see up on the screen. So we're back in C. So we have a C, step and a half is our minor 3rd, then our major 3rd, okay? And that is a minor triad. And then if we add a 7th on there, we wouldn't add this one, we would add this 7th, okay? So that is our minor 7. Here's another inversion of it. Kind of sounds a little bit more jazzy. But the idea behind this, now you really won't see this too often, where you have like a minor triad and a major 7th. That's the reason. if you could hear that, it just does not sound very good. But I mean, it is used. It's just very rarely. Very rarely. I don't see it in the Gather book. It probably exists somewhere and I just haven't seen it. I don't know. But it has very little use for anything that I know about. You'd have to ask Chris about if there's any great uses of a minor triad with a major 7. Probably is some great jazz book or something. I don't know. Anyway, so I just wanted you to realize that in the Gather book, for the most part, when it says minor 7, you can pretty much write the book on it that's what the spelling is going to be. A minor triad with that minor 3rd above the 5th, which makes it a 7. So it's sort of like that dominant 7, right? Because our major 7th would have been here, so our dominant 7 here, okay? That's the way I want you to understand that, I think, for now. Let's spell it in G. So at G minor 7, I'll take this, let me take the screen down so you don't get confused again. Our G, that would be a B flat, that would be a D natural, and if we're doing a G minor 7, it would be an F natural. This is basically a B flat chord with a G in the bass. I've talked about that before. Hopefully you remember that, okay? That's a shortcut. But it's the idea, G, B flat, D, and F natural. Some people ask, Ron, why is that a B flat? Why can't that be an A sharp? I've had that question before. It's a very good question. Mainly because of lettering, okay? Because if you think of just the alphabet, and let's take the keyboard out of it. Just think of the alphabet. Think of the first letter as being the 1, right? So we've got a C, or no, I'm sorry, G, because we're doing a G minor. So it would be a G. You have to skip every other letter. So you wouldn't call anything the A. You would call it a B something, like a B flat or B natural or B sharp, whatever. But it would have to be a B something. And in this case, it would be a B flat to make the minor 3rd, okay? And then you have to skip the next letter, which is a C, to go to D. So the next note has to be a D something to be a 1, 3, and a 5, okay? That's why. And even the 7th has to be, it has to use the letter of the 7th letter, okay? Now it can be sharp or flat or whatever, but it has to be that letter. That's why that's why it's named a G, B flat, D, and this is an F. It's not anything crazy like an E sharp. Okay, anyway, pretend I didn't even say that last bit. Okay, I know this is running long. I apologize, but I think it's really, really important to understand the 7ths. I wanted to go over them really, really slowly. I'm going to show you a D minor 7, and then we're going to move on to the song. A D minor 7, this is really cool because this is one of my favorite chords. D, F natural, A, and C. Boom. It's cool because it's all white notes and it has a beautiful sound, especially if you play it in your left hand. Okay, you can pretty much improvise a lot over these chords right here. So basically what I played is the D minor 7, then I played a G dominant 7 or just G7, and then I played a C major 7. Beautiful chords, beautiful little jazzy chords. So if you want to do them fast. So you can have some fun with it. It just sounds beautiful. It's a beautiful progression. Basically a 2-5-1 jazz progression. It's very simple. All right, make me a channel of your piece. In the very beginning, if you're looking at your sheet music, I have to look over here, so sorry for not looking into the camera for this. All right, of my sheet music over here, the second measure, boom, D major 7, and it's written M-A-J, so you know it's a major 7. So a D, F sharp, and then you have an A, and then because it's a major 7, boom, we have to go a major third above that. So there's our D major 7. So it has to have that C sharp in there, okay? We'll talk about the D6 in a second, which is the third measure. Let's skip down to the F minor 7. So actually, technically, sorry, it's an F sharp minor 7. How do I know that? So it's on the 6th measure. It's an F sharp, okay, the little number sign for the sharp. I'm sure you knew that, sorry. Anyway, and then it's a lowercase m, which infers minor, okay? So it's an F sharp. Let's take an F sharp, and then we're gonna do a minor triad, and then we're gonna add that 7 on there. Now it's an F sharp minor 7. So here it is, okay? So it would be with this particular note, which is an E natural, okay? Now, I wouldn't play it in that inversion. This is probably more of where I would play it. So, but that's a tricky one. The F sharp minor 7 is a tricky one, okay? So F sharp, A, and C sharp is the F sharp minor triad. Add the 7, it's just an E natural, okay? Remember how we found it? We found it by going a step and a half away from our 5th, okay? So that's really important to know. So that's another beautiful chord in here. Now, there's an E minor 7. There's all kinds of really beautiful chords in here. So I'm going to show you right now a shortcut to this particular song, okay? And this shortcut is just my interpretation. Other people would probably play it very different than me. This is just one way I play it because it makes it easier for me to play the song. So it starts off with a D chord. I'm going to choose to use second inversion. So I've got my D here, and my left hand would play the root note, okay? It would play a D natural here. So that's what my first chord would be. So it would be like, okay? That's our first measure. Now, if I just take this finger off and move it down to the C sharp, that gives you the same notes as a D major 7. Sounds beautiful. Now, I told you we would talk about the 6th. If we take it down, all the way down here, it takes it to a 6th. Okay? So we can actually do the first 3 measures. 1. Okay? All right, so that's the first 3 measures. Then the 4th measure is a repeat of 2. Back to that little D major 7. Then the 5th measure is back to our D. So we've got that little passage right there. So it's just going from 1 chord to the 7, 6, 7, root. And then we get into a F minor 7. Here's how F sharp minor 7. Here's how I would play that. Okay? I would use the F sharp in the left hand, and then I would just do an A major chord. So if I were to pull this up an octave, you could see how it's laid out perfectly in root position All I did is the left hand just kept it down an octave. That's it. And you can even do this. That sounds beautiful too. So you've got some options there. All right, so that's the first few measures of that song, and then we get to an E minor 7. Okay? And then I'm going to teach you one more chord in this particular song. It goes to an A, then it comes back to the E minor 7, and then it has this E minor plus 5. I'm going to show you how to play it first, then I'll tell you what it means. If you plus 5 means to take the 5th note of the chord and raise it a half step. Boom. So it really, this is a C major triad over E. That's really what it is. Now, theoretically, we can't call it that. There are reasons for that you don't need to know. Not for now. If you're big into theory, write me an email. I'll explain it to you. Gosh, I think I'd bore you. But anyway, all right. So that's how we get to that really, really interesting plus 5 chord. So let me explain it. So it's basically, we have an E minor 7. This is in root position, okay? So all it is raising the 5 up a half step. There it is. It's a beautiful chord, okay? When you do it like this, it spells it out a little bit easier. So in the beginning of this song, how I would interpret a little bit of this song is... Okay, so that's basically the idea behind it. I think I was a little late there, but that's all right. There is the first few measures. I invite you to go back and see what I did and how I used voice leading to get me from one note to the other, and how I went from the 7th, that major 7th, to the 6th, and then back, and then to the root, and how I made that little E and plus 5, okay? So anyway, I hope this was very, very helpful for you. I hope that these videos are helpful, and I hope that you continue to use them as often as you need to. Please email me with any questions, if you have any ideas, suggestions, if you want me to do certain other types of chords. We can certainly go in that direction. So for now, thank you so much for joining me.